All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Let's Talk Live here on this Monday night. It's been quite a while since we've had this panel, the all-star panel, the three amigos back live again, and we have a lot to get into today. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about Karen Read. She started her civil hearings today, and it's looking like, from what I'm reading, the trial may not take place until 2027. So again, I feel like it's a lot of wasted time. They put in a motion to dismiss today. The judge urged a lot of caution, and we're going to be able to break that down once we get Nan up here. I know she has a few things to talk about it. And then obviously we're going to get into Francis Gigliotti's case, as just recently in the last couple of weeks, it has been ruled a homicide. And I wanted to bring JFK on today because JFK and his crew have been doing a lot of work on their channel about this. They've been there. They went up to Haverhill. They've been hearing the vibe. They've been talking to the friends and family. They know what's going on, and we want to know more about what's going on in the area and how people feel. So let's not waste too much time. Let's bring in, we're going to bring in Nan Gallagher first. Nan, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like we've been streaming a lot lately.
I know. We must be friends. I must pay you to be my friend.
Yeah, I guess that's probably what it is. I don't think so. But let's do this. We haven't seen this gentleman in quite a while. We'll bring on Todd McGee. How are you, Todd?
Hello, everyone. Hey, Brian. Hey, Nan.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great.
Good to see you.
Good to be back.
Good to see you. Yeah, it's very good to see you. Again, we'll talk a little Karen Read to open this up, and then we'll get into Francis's case. But let's not wait too much longer. Let's bring in our guest for the show. We have JFK from the JFK Show. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
What's happening, man? What's happening, Nan? Todd?
Hey, JFK. How are you doing?
We're just hanging out.
Good to see you.
I don't have all the music like you do, so the show's probably not going to pop like that, but I love the show. You guys do a good job over there. Shout out to Kevy Kev, James Jackson. You guys do an amazing job over there. It's always fun watching the show. So we'll get into it tonight.
I love your show.
It's fun. It is fun. I love the music.
Thank you.
And you were playing a lot of old 80s hits the other night, which was awesome. So Todd, I have an update. We talked about this case before we get into the Karen civil trial today. We've been talking about this case on the channel, and we had an update in Robert Brooks's case, and I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention so they know what is going on in Robert's case. So four guards have pled guilty in the brutal beating death of a black inmate in New York prison. If anybody doesn't know about this case, I'll give you a quick brief rundown. Robert Brooks was an inmate at a neighboring facility to Marcy Correctional Facility up in upstate New York. I think they pronounce it Oneida County, and I might have that wrong, but apparently what happened was, and there was video actually captured of this, it was either 9 or 10 prison guards were transferring Robert Brooks over from a neighboring prison into Marcy. But when they were doing that, they were literally beating him along the way. But what these guys didn't know was their body cams that they were wearing, 4 of them turned on. So they got triggered and turned on. There was no audio of the incident, but there was a hell of a lot of video. And it literally, Robert Brooks horrifically gets murdered on body cam. And eventually, after an investigation, these guys get arrested and charged. A couple of them were going to take this to a jury trial, but I think they came to a conclusion, talking to their lawyers today, that they've taken some plea deals. I don't like it. I wanted to see them go away forever, but let me read a little bit about this. 4 prison guards pled guilty on Monday in the death of a black inmate who was brutally beaten in upstate New York prison and was captured on body cam videos. The pleas came in 2 weeks before the start of the trial from a group guards accused of the death of Robert Brooks, who was plummeted while handcuffed at Marcy Correctional Facility on December 9th. That's the brutalness of this. This man was cuffed. His hands were behind his back. He had no way to fight back. He had no way to try to get out of this situation. These guys are cowards. They're murderers, and they deserve every single thing that they get in prison. And I'm going to call for it now. I hope there's some prison justice in this. I hope these guys have the worst days of their lives in prison. They deserve everything they get. I'm going to read a little bit more here, and then we'll get to the panel and see how they feel about this. 4 of the 10 guards indicted in February are still heading to trial on October 6th, including 3 accused of murder. 2 guards facing a top charge of murder pled guilty in Munich court to a lesser charge in the indictment, first-degree manslaughter under the agreements, Nicholas Alazone and Anthony Farina. The Anthony Farina is the one, the bald guy here. He seemed like he was the one that was kind of leading the charge in all of this. And it is saying that they've both resigned and they will be sentenced to 22 years in prison. I'm going to go to Todd first. Todd and I talked a lot about this on the channel. Todd, your thoughts? What do you think here?
Yeah, Brian, we covered a lot on this channel, and this is probably the most brutal story that we've covered. I concur with you that, much longer sentences were in line for these 4 individuals. But I'll take the 22 years. And again, prison justice is what it is. And, that things have their way. Karma has its way of working itself out. But also, not to highlight just this 4, there were at least 5 others that were involved that remain complicit in this brutal beating of Mr. Brooks. And so it would be interesting to see the follow-up with, how those other people pled out, or what type of disciplinary action was held against the other inmate, the other correctional officers as well.
Yeah, JFK, I know you're just hearing about this case. Let me go to you and see your thoughts on this. I know you don't know a lot about it, but just what you've heard so far. What's your take on this?
They're going to be in trouble wherever they go. They got to watch their back. As soon as they get locked up, it's all eyes on them. So, that's, they did that time. Somebody might let a couple of mosquitoes come in late night into their cells, so you just never know.
The roaches, right? The roaches.
Yeah, the roaches. And that's how it goes in jail too. You just never know who knows who. It gets real political on the inside,
Yeah, this story's going to make it into the whatever correctional facility.
Oh, it's probably already there, Todd.
Without a doubt.
It's probably already there. Yeah. They're probably going, all right, we'll just wait when they coming in, and then we'll give them the greeting. Nan, what do you think about this?
I think somebody's going to quote unquote fly a kite in prison. So their days are numbered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if anyone doesn't know what that means, look it up. I'm not going to educate, but there's going to be a kite flown. Justice has a way of getting served one way or another.
Indeed.
I agree. NH Dude says blanket party justice. They're calling for a blanket party. I know what that means. Kev in the chat. What's up? He says,
hey,
God
Kevy.
damn JFK. All right. Let's do this. So we had Karen's civil hearing today. I watched most of it. I know everybody here probably checked in. Nan had a lot to say about this. I'm going to give just some highlights of the key issues raised. So Reed's legal team is laying out what they intend to argue in the civil case. They plan to allege wrongdoing by the number of the parties, obviously the state police, investigators that were involved in the criminal case. Everybody was called out in the McAlbert side, and obviously the town of Canton. And then we have, it's looking like I don't know, Nan, I might have this wrong. It's looking like the trial is going to be in 2027. That's
for now. For
Yeah.
now, I can explain the process if you'd like.
Please.
Like, just so everyone understands, at like a preliminary conference or a status conference on a civil case, a judge is kind of setting artificial markers for where he thinks deadlines will fall. He'll set what could be a firm trial date, but from my experience over 25 years of practicing law, it's usually not a true trial date. So he'll put one out for kind of electronic case keeping purposes. But I don't see this case as seeing a trial until at least 2027, if not longer, in light of the addition or anticipated addition of 10 new defendants into that case.
Yeah, what was the judge
Third-party
arguing today on
defendants.
that?
So-
was he? I was confused on that.
Well, let me say this. I don't necessarily agree, and I put this out on my ex. I don't agree with the way Karen's civil team went about doing what they did today. What they did was tell the judge at this conference, yeah, we're going to be adding 10 new defendants, including the MSP and individual troopers, the McAlberts, etc., into this case, whether they're going to be what's called third-party defendants, who Karen is then suing as part of this case, or whether they're going to file a separate civil rights action that then will get consolidated into this case, because that's what courts do. They will consolidate cases that have the same kind of factual background and predicate. With that said, I would have done it differently. I would have actually prepared that pleading, decided how they're going to do it. They're bringing this in state court. So they're taking federal 1983 civil rights claims and they're going to bring them in state court. That can have a bunch of different effects, which I won't bore your audience with, but I'm happy to stream again with you, Brian, if you want me to bore them on another night. But what they're doing is they're bringing state civil rights actions against these individuals, conspiracy claims, negligent supervision, negligent claims against the Canton PD for failing to secure the Sally Port, etc. But by doing what they did, which was kind of telling this judge, hey, we're going to be doing this. And I got into some sparring on Twitter over this, my opinions on this. But just by bringing it to the court, saying we're going to be doing it this way or we're going to be doing it that way, they should have drafted the pleading, exchanged it with plaintiff's attorney, the attorney for the O'Keefes, and then brought it to the court saying this is what we intend to file, deciding the course of action that they're going to take. Instead of, and I get it, they got the sound bite, and I'm all for the sound bite, but they got it out there on the news and everyone's buzzing about it, but the judge kind of, to answer your question, pushed back and said, well, these seem like novel claims, which they're not. And he said, well, does your adversary know? No, he did not. So by doing it the way they did it, which was a little bit of a presentation by ambush and surprise, it kind of, while it had the soundbite, it took the wind out of, we're ready to go. Here you go. We've exchanged it with plaintiff's attorney. We're filing our motion for permission to do this, and we're going to move forward. I understand Alan Jackson may have had some words on Howie Carr's show on the strategy involved, and I don't question their strategy. It's just not how I would have done it. But the judge didn't seem to like that they hadn't really definitively decided in their direction, shared it with their adversary, and were prepared to proceed one way or the other. Yeah, either way, I'm happy they're bringing them in, because these are rightful parties. They're interested parties, and they're the truly culpable parties.
I think they wanted to wait and not file those motions and do it, like you said, get that soundbite out there and let the public know, like, we're not backing down. And oh, guess what? We're bringing you all into it too. So everybody that thinks that they were that got away and skated on this criminal trial, we're bringing you in too. I thought it was very interesting that the defense for the legal, the legal team for the O'Keefes brought in Turtle Boy today too. They brought his name up several times too. So I was almost wondering, like, you think they're going to try to pull him into this civil case too?
I don't think they're going to try to pull Turtle Boy in, but the attorney for the O'Keefes, when he was arguing this motion of the opposition to the motion to dismiss emotional distress claims, he was kind of pivoting on all different areas. He was, as my father used to say, a lost fart in a blizzard. He's like, well, they did this and Karen did that, and she was feeding information to reporters. None of that justifies an emotional distress claim. None of that brings her conduct, which there was none, to the level of extreme and outrageous, which is what the case law in Massachusetts, and I dare say all other states, require. And also to win or to advance a successful claim for negligent and or reckless or intentional infliction of emotional distress, the case law is pretty clear. I learned this in my first week of law school, and the case law that follows really follows this same mentality, which is the people who have emotional distress claims that they want to associate with an accident in a wrongful death suit, they have to be contemporally, like right there and or right soon upon the scene. not hours later, not, oh, we found out about this,
Right.
then we went to the hospital. And I had tweeted about this. I was like, if, and I didn't say it this way, but this is what was implied. If this judge extends case law in Massachusetts to say that you can find out about a loved one's loss or injury after an accident hours later, go to the hospital, be devastated with the loss, and therefore advance an emotional distress claim against a defendant, it's going to create this huge floodgate of additional litigation. It's not what it's meant for. Those types of claims are meant for when you're at an amusement park and you see your child fall off a roller coaster and plummet. I mean, it's really that type of immediate loss. Sorry to be graphic, folks, but that's actually from a case. That's what you learn. So I thought the judge seemed lukewarm to what Karen's team is doing, but I go back to my premise, which is, they have a pretty robust team. Had they really formulated a solid plan, shared the pleading that they intend to file, be ready to file a motion to add these parties, had they been more definitive in their direction, in my opinion, the judge would have had a little bit more of a solid grasp of what they're looking to do. No, hope is not lost. It's just not how I would have set the table.
Yeah. JFK, Todd, anything you want to add to this? Go ahead. I'll let you guys go.
JFK.
I seen what they were talking about with Kelsey, right? Is that the kid's name?
Yep.
Yeah,
Kaylee.
the way that Kaylee, was it Kaylee? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying Kelsey because
all right.
Kelsey Fitzsimmons. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Kaylee. Wow. The way he worded that he's a lawyer, right? He's not a DA or nothing like that, right? He's just a lawyer.
He's just a lawyer.
Yeah, he's the way he worded that and said that she manipulated her and and basically got her traumatized behind this. Like, that's a pretty wild the way, if you guys seen what he was saying about that situation. That's what stuck out to me in that. That was like it's just crazy the way they're doing it, because he's bringing up Turtle Boy, and obviously if you're going to bring up Turtle Boy, the blogger, about conspiracy, you got to bring all the people in. You know what I mean? So, I don't know what the surprise is. That's the whole reason why you have to bring them in, because you guys are saying that Turtle Boy they concoct this story. So let's bring everybody in so you guys can understand why this story is so paramount,
Right.
It's going to be an extremely layered civil case. I just feel it. Like, it's going to be messy. I texted Nante. I said, after the hearing, I go, this is going to be messy. And she's like, yep. I mean,
I love it.
It's going to get messy. Going to get messy. Todd, anything you want to add here? Oh, I'm sorry, Nan.
Just a quick note. Sorry to interrupt you, Todd. Just so everyone knows, if you want a smile on your face, none of the claims that Karen's team anticipates filing against at least the McAlberts, none of them will ever be covered by insurance. None of them. So go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, thanks, Nan. And I agree with both Nan and JFK. Listening to plaintiff's counsel, it was as if listening to the Brennan strategy all over again.
Yeah.
To throw as much against the wall as possible, and maybe something will stick. And some of it was just, really, we're going to go there this early in the process? But it is what it is. They've got to present their case. And again, it appears to be on a weak foundation.
Yep.
This is going to be a long, convoluted trial. I think it's going to be very layered, and I'm curious to see how this is all going to turn out. Just like everybody watching the show. So, yeah. Well, it started. The civil trial has started. So tune in. I'm sure there's going to be tons of motions, tons of back and forth, more hearings until this thing gets into trial. So. Stay tuned for that. All right, let's get into the topic tonight. I wanted to bring, again, JFK into this because he's done a lot of work on Francis Gigliotti's case since this happened back on July 11th. He's been up in Haverhill with his crew, Kev, James Jackson, and they got into the area, got the vibe of what's going on, what people are saying. He's talked to a lot of the family members and friends, and I wanted to bring him into the fold because recently, just in the last couple of weeks, Francis's case has been ruled a homicide. I have a lot of questions. Why are people not being arrested yet? Why are we still see police officers on leave but not arrested? Let me do this first before we start getting into it. I'll just give everybody kind of a basic timeline. I wrote some things down here. So Francis Gigliotti is 43 years old, died on January 11, 2025, after an encounter with Haverhill, Massachusetts police. He was reported to be, quote, he was behaving erratically and wandering the streets. Video released by the prosecutors in June showed Gigliotti, spoke to two officers, then ran away and tried to enter a restaurant, and then being taken to the ground by seven, right? JFK, seven officers?
Seven, yep.
Seven,
Seven.
not taken to the ground, pig piled on by seven officers as he was calling for help. And I want to use this quote because I love it. And I heard James Jackson say this. He said, he wasn't shooting, he was shouting. And this was the end result. He wasn't shooting, he was shouting. So how can we open this up? JFK, let us know. You know, you went up there, you talked to the locals, you talked to a lot of friends and family. You've gotten the vibe up in Haverhill. What's going on up there? How's everybody feeling, and what have you found out since being up there?
Well, I talked to Becky, which is his first cousin, and I talked to his aunt, which is Becky's mother, which is Francis Giglioti's mother's sister. So just to give you an idea of how his mother's feeling, Francis Gigliotti, his mother lost all three of her kids.
Ugh.
Back in 2010, her son, younger, I think his name was, matter of fact, I think his name was Todd. If I'm not mistaken, right? Don't quote me on that, but I think his name might have been Todd. He was 1 year apart. They were Irish twins, him and Francis. He drowned out in Plymouth, right? And then I guess like 10 years later, excuse me, 10 years later, they found his remains. Well, obviously, it was in the ocean, so they didn't find much, but they found some DNA and they identified him. And then 3 years ago, his sister was a hit and run out in Methuen. The person took off. They never found the person. She died. So all three of her kids are gone. And his mother's not in good health either. So she's actually in a wheelchair the last time I seen her. But as far as the temperature out there in Haverhill, they just all believe that these police, they were the threat. As soon as all of them, Middleton jail, Todd knows, Essex County, a lot of these cops out in that area become police officers, right? But we're in the jail before, right? And I don't know if that's to be true about any of these officers, right? But what I do know based on that, I think like they had so many opportunities to arrest him or do whatever they were going to do with him, and they didn't do it. He ran away from them 2 times. They didn't put him in cuffs, and then all of a sudden they hit the panic switch, so to speak. Meaning like bring in the boys. When all the boys rolled up, they just went with muscle memory of what they do. They took them down. So everybody's looking at it from that POV, that as soon as all their boys rolled up, and girls, that shit hit the fan, and they didn't mean to kill them, but that's what happened. And basically Becca and the auntie said, even if they go ahead and paint the picture that the drugs killed him and they go arrest the drug dealer and put the murder on him, they don't see it that way. They don't want that to happen. They said they seen what happened in front of their eyes. So that's where the family stands and the people stand out there. None of them are hearing that it was the drugs that did it,
Yeah, so the medical examiner's findings, and this was reported by the chief medical examiner. Let's see. It said, this is where I have a lot of, I don't get it. This is where I don't get it. The death is ruled a homicide, and they're saying the cause of death was by cardiac dysrhythmia in a person with acute intoxication due to combined effects of cocaine and ethanol while being restrained and prone by police. So
I can clarify that for you, Brian.
Yeah.
Just because the word homicide does not necessarily mean that someone killed someone. The actual term homicide for purposes of a medical examiner's report just means that someone died at the hands of another. So from what you're saying, if he had any signs of cardiac dysrhythmia or any underlying health conditions, the medical examiner appears to at least be saying that those were underlying conditions that may have been exacerbated by the actions of the responding police officers. And it was the responding police officers that, and I'm using this term in the lightest sense of the word, caused the death because it ended up aggravating underlying health conditions. So the word homicide doesn't mean they killed him, although I believe they killed him. I just want to make sure you understand that. Because a lot of people get that wrong. Homicide does not necessarily mean the M word.
Also, to your point, Nan, murder and manslaughter are the criminal forms of homicide.
Yes, you said it better.
I don't want to parse words. I don't mean to do that, but in the legal realm of things, words do matter.
Yes.
And I can break down the whole thing around, the stimulants in the system and the arrest and, the pig pile and everything else like that when you're ready. I don't want to get ahead of you, Brian.
Yeah, and the thing that's just kind of the thing that I want to kind of say to this is when we, as an average, citizen that doesn't have a legal mind or law enforcement mind, when we hear homicide, what does our mind initially go to, right? JFK's, right? What is it your mind initially go to? Murder. That's what that is associated with.
Well, it could be like Nan was saying, it could be a lawful homicide or unlawful homicide. So the question is, are they going to charge them and say it was lawful? Like at the end of the day, right? You've seen what you've seen. Your eyes didn't deceive you. At the end of the day, human beings, we had a Las Vegas police officer, Brian. He wasn't a threat. It wasn't even like when they grabbed him. He said, if you let me off, if you let me go, I'm going to punch you guys in the face, or you guys are bitches. The same rhetoric that always happens between police officers and someone. Take off that badge, right? He wasn't saying that. He was saying, I can't breathe. So, I mean, as a human, just being a human, it's like, man, just flip the dude over, So that's what it comes down to, right? They made a mistake. And so now they got to pay for it. It is what it is. It's not like I think that how it's getting spun, because let's paint Todd knows, LTL. Nan probably don't know, but she has an idea of how things are in Haverhill. Haverhill is one of these towns that have a stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
Me and Todd grew up in Lynn. I mean, you say you grew up in Lynn, right off the bat, you're a drug addict, or you're no good, or and look at him, he's a successful man, right? I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great things in Lynn, but the stigma in Lynn, the city of sin, you don't come out the way you came in, right? So Haverhill's connected to Lynn. That's one of our brothers and sisters. You got Lawrence and Haverhill, which is all Essex County. So Lowell's Middlesex County.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the 3 L's, we still got the 3 L's. I get it. Lawrence, Lynn, Lowell. That's a thing in Massachusetts. But the point is that there's a stigma attached to it that, he was on drugs, and if you do drugs and you get confronted by the police, this might happen to you. So that's the stigma attached to it. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people are backing off this, because, in these downtown areas of Lawrence and Haverhill, especially Lynn, you see a lot of mental health and a lot of drug addicts, and you can't hate the addict. You got to hate the disease. You know what I mean? At this point, because it's real bad out there. People are just dying. Their mental health is checked out, and I get it. It's a choice. That's a crazy argument, right? But that's why I feel like the stigma is attached to it, and I think that's why they could be trying to frame it up and get people off. But let's look at the human factor. The human factor is he's saying, I can't breathe, just flip the dude over, right? Isn't it that simple? So that's where
it's the same thing it's the same thing in the George Floyd situation, where we heard, him multiple times, and Todd and I have talked about this too. When listen, at some point when someone's cuffed, they're not going to be, they're not, if the guy, listen, we seen the video. He's not kicking. He's not, like JFK said, he's not going to say, if these cuffs come off, I'm going to kick your ass, whatever. He's not doing any of that. He's just saying at that point, I can't breathe. It's the same thing with George Floyd. I can't breathe. Well, then what is the problem with just rolling him up and sitting him upright and have him cuffed? He ain't going to go anywhere. I mean, if he's flat on the ground and you're standing above him and he goes to get up, all you got to do is use your foot or your hand and just push them back down. It's not like he's going to run and get up. unless he's
Right.
being, violent or whatever, and then they have to restrain him, put leg restraints. But it wasn't any of that in this situation. So I like to hear Todd's take on this as well. If you want to go down and break down I'm calling it an assault. It was an assault. I mean, it was 7 people that jumped on someone, and literally this guy was on the bottom and he got crushed. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
So let me start by saying this, and I've got a lot to say procedurally, training, the way they went about arresting Francis. And I don't want anyone on this panel or anyone else in the chat to think that I'm justifying the actions. And when you hear me out, you'll understand where my position is on this. First, let me level set everyone to say that I have been involved in use of force training in technique application since 1992. Still today, I work with attorneys. Sometimes I justify police officers' actions, and other times I'm calling out the misconduct of police officers. So I call a spade. I'm calling balls and strikes, and I work on both sides of plaintiff litigation as well as defense. Okay, so let me start by the drugs in the system. To JFK's point, nobody is a throwaway. No one is a throwaway in our society, in our community. And when law enforcement gets a call where there may be erratic behavior that's mentioned in that call for service, they need to think some type of mental health, some type of issue is off with this call. And when they don't think that way, there's bad outcomes like we saw in this case. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, the larger, more sophisticated agencies throughout the country have mental health professionals that ride along with the patrols. And you have favorable outcomes because they've trained to work together, where the mental health professional will take lead and try and bring that person in their erratic mindset, in their erratic moments, to a better place. They're trained, they're medical professionals that know how to do that. Cops aren't trained for that. But we get called in for these types of situations, and ultimately you have bad outcomes. There's something called excited delirium. Excited delirium, I learned excited delirium way back in the 90s. And excited delirium has to have 3 components. There has to be a stimulant in the system. There has to be some increase in the heart rate through agitation, through some type of physical exertion. And then the third component is a pig pile. Typically positional asphyxia, pig pile is the easiest way for us to understand. But all 3 components have to be together. The problem with the term positional asphyxia, it's not considered a legal medical term. So you're not going to be able to go and Google anything to say, positional asphyxia will highlight those 3 elements that I just mentioned to you, but positional asphyxia is not considered a legal term where a judge will say, okay, based on positional asphyxia, we're gonna call it the day, and too bad, too sad, right? So they have moved to other language to recognize the condition of the human body being exasperated from that government that government involvement in trying to bring someone under control and under arrest. All right, so I'm just framing everybody. I'm not justifying. I'm just trying to put a framework for everybody. Now, let's talk about training. Because this is an issue, whether it's a legal term or not, I would train 2-on-1 techniques for police officers to avoid pig piles. Here's the next thing that I don't know, and JFK, please bring clarity on this. I don't know if there was any pepper spray that was introduced into this arrest. Did that come up at all?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, all right. this almost a fourth layer happens when there's positional asphyxia. Pepper spray introduced because by design, the capsicum is designed to be a respiratory prohibitor. So now the person legitimately can't breathe because they've had a foreign object introduced into their system along with the other three elements. Anyways, so understanding all those components, there are ways I taught them. And when I say I've taught them, I'm talking 5 figures, well over 20,000 police officers in my career, from trainees to veteran cops, on how to be able to control and restrain an individual. Brian, to your earlier point, we consider control when a person is in handcuffs. Say it again. We consider control when a person is in handcuffs. If they are handcuffed in the prone position, meaning face down, police officers are taught that the chest can't properly expand. So once they're considered under control, 1, roll them to their side, 2, sit them on their butt. That's I don't want to oversimplify this,
That's
but
basic.
that's what the training involves.
You see that a lot, like on cops and all that. Like, they'll say, turn to your side, sit on your butt. Once they got,
Open airway. Yep.
That's to avoid the lack of the ability for the chest to expand during just a normal breathing process for a human being. Also, you'll see that knees are entered in. The Northeast, we never trained any compression on the neck, like you saw in George Floyd with Derek Chauvin, right? Stay off the neck, whether it's trachea or from the sides.
Yeah, it's your carotid artery.
Lateral compression stops blood flow to the brain. Trachea compression stops airflow to the brain. Avoid the neck at all times. The technique is taught at the shoulder blade. If the knee is in at the shoulder blade, the person can still breathe temporarily until they're handcuffed. Once they're handcuffed, they're under control. Get them to the side, sit them on their butt. So you hear me? Taught this. If I taught it once, I've taught it a million times, over and over and over through repetition. That's how we preserve life. That's how you bring someone that's out of control into control safely.
Wow.
Now, if the response, I want to go back to the first call for service. You're on scene. You see erratic behavior. You have this arrest. You're now assuming you've got these, all the elements and conditions of excited delirium. The next place to bring that arrestee is to the hospital, not to lockup. These are standard protocols, Brian. This isn't stuff that I'm, whimsical off the top of my head. Cops need to have that level of training and consistency to avoid these types of custodial deaths.
This is what I don't like about this whole thing. I'm going to read this statement. So the mayor noted that, quote, and this is to Nan's point, homicide, and to Todd's point, homicide is a medically legal classification and does not by itself establish whether officers' action in law was lawful or unlawful. Here's what I have the problem in all this, Todd, and this is where I think they're going to try to stuff this one. The police union said that officers acted in good faith, used state-approved training, and were taking him into protective custody so he could receive medical treatment. This is where I think, and this is just my opinion, we know what happens when unions and lawyers get involved. I think they're going to use the drugs and alcohol in the system to try to get their way out of, I don't know. I listen, 7 people on top of someone that's saying they can't breathe. I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
I don't care about protocol. I don't care about nothing.
Brian,
Not doing the right thing.
So we opened up the show talking about the Brooks incident, and this is not to equate these seven officers to what transpired in Marcy Correctional Facility. However, it still doesn't exonerate them from training violations, some level of liability towards negligence, right? So I can tell you firsthand, in no lesson plan does it show pig piling as a technique.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
But even if they were, even if, by the way, Todd, like you educate me so much. I took like all these notes. I learned so much
I
from
got
you.
my notes.
Yeah, I'll pass them along. Well, I mean, we now have it on YouTube and posterity, and but the point is, I learn so much from you every time we speak. But to your point, Brian, with the drugs in his system, or if he has any mental health,
Allegedly.
allegedly,
Well, no, wait. No, it was confirmed. Sorry. It was confirmed by
yeah.
the medical examiner. Okay.
But
All
even
right.
if he has any mental health issues or drugs in his system, any of that, there seems to be, from what Todd is saying, a clear standard protocol that should have been
Have
followed
happened.
and didn't happen. And not to pivot to Kelsey Fitzsimmons' case too long, but they're gonna hang their hat on the fact that, well, you know, she drew a gun, etc., and she was having, or at least there was reports of her having mental health related issues herself. So when that becomes a he said she said issue in what happened in the home to Kelsey Fitzsimmons, now we're going to see another story here of Francis's matter, where it had to have been the drugs in his system, or he had mental health issues. But that's why it's so important that JFK, Kevy Kev, and James Jackson, and you, and all of the other content creators who focus on this and keep focusing on it, all the people that watch these streams, keep drawing the attention back to there were these steps that weren't followed, the protocols. And I did have a question, though, for Todd. When you say these are, and I don't know if you use the word standard protocols, but would these types of steps to take with someone who's exhibiting excited delirium, and like you said, the next step, the key step would be not to take someone in that condition to lock up, you'd then take them to the hospital. All of these steps that are to be taken, is that in training manuals, like standard protocols? Is this taught in the academy, or is this something that each of the different states have to have? And I guess we'll talk strictly about the Commonwealth here, but do they have to kind of call in someone like you to perform that training on request? I'm trying to figure out if steps were missed because no one asked for this additional training to be performed on recruits and existing troopers and officers, or is it something where you have a case where, no, this is elemental, you learn this in your training?
This is elemental. This is basic standard training, and I could name dozens and dozens of trainers that teach what I've taught. This is not considered advanced training where you would go to a school to learn how to deal with someone that, you know, is exhibiting erratic behavior, and, you know, it's this tactic and that approach in order to properly handcuff. This is standard training.
I'm wondering if someone like Brian, who's a magician with FOIA requests, could make a request of the Haverhill Police Department for all of the, you'll never get these, but all of the personnel files for those officers, but more importantly, the training protocols, the
They shut me down, Nan.
But
I tried.
I'd love to look at what you specifically requested, and maybe we'll cast another net.
Okay.
You know, see what I know they shut you down. It's an ongoing investigation. Sometimes there's ways to keep pushing to get, like, it wouldn't matter if there's an ongoing investigation, for example. There's no reason why the standard training protocols should not be released. It has nothing to do with the investigation. They're not going to be changed. They existed at one point in time when these officers came up through the ranks. So we might be able to tweak it a little bit.
JFK, what's the vibe out there as far as how Haverhill police handle situations like this out there? What's the town telling you, the people that live in and around that area? Is it pretty much the standard shit like this all the time, or?
Well, Maria, can you hear me?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
So 8/8/1988, there was an album that came out. 1988. Great album too. It had a cat named Eazy-E in it, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, DJ Yella.
Love
They had
it.
a song. They had a song.
I know what you said.
They had a song, boy. I mean, they made all the headbangers, man. I seen dudes who listen to Bon Jovi. I seen all the cats who had
Oh,
Ozzy
yeah.
tattooed it on there, OZZY on the four fingers, AC/DC. I seen the whole switch. Everybody was screaming F the police, and that's basically the type of time that they're on over there. They just don't like the Haverhill police. They don't see it. They just say they're not even have any compassion for them whatsoever. Because, it's back to what Todd is saying is 110%. Like this is just elementary shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they know what to do. They messed up, period. But the point is, these particular police that are working downtown Haverhill, there's a lot of zombies out there, man. You know what I mean? Even with Lynn, there's a lot of zombies out there. Even though I get it, they ain't trained in mental health. But if you're on the beat long enough, you know who's checked out and who's not. Who's talking to the Dunkin' Donuts coffee cup and who's not. You got people in Dunkin' Donuts talking to the coffee cup. Hey, Mr. Coffee Cup, I love you. Stop playing
Yeah.
with the straw. They know who to talk to, and that's police work. Let's get back to police work. Todd came up in a time where it was fucking police work. They pulled over the cruiser. They got out the car. Hey, guys, how you doing? Threw a football, even shot a basketball. These cops don't want to do police work no more. They just want to be one way. Every situation is different. And that's what's making the big separation now. Like when I was growing up, I liked some police in my neighborhood.
Mhm.
You know which ones you could, ride the moped up and down the street without the helmet on. They don't care. The other ones are on duty. Don't do it. It was that simple because you know who's who and you have like a respect for the neighborhood. That's all lost now. So now these guys just show up once they hit that panic switch, attack. Someone should have stepped in, bottom line, that did have that know-how and say, back up,
Yeah.
let this guy get up. And they didn't do it. Now they're all messed up. But as far as the community goes, they're just mad that the police are walking around and none of them, have any compassion whatsoever. They're just saying it didn't happen like that. He was on drugs. They're smiling. I guess some kids had chalk. Some of the nieces, Francis Gigliotti girl that he was with, fiance, she has a couple of kids and they had chalk and they were writing R.I.P. Francis. And the police showed up and said, you can't write with chalk, and jumped out the car. They got him on film. They're being very bitter. And, it's just stuff like that, and at the end of the day, you got to have compassion. Like I said, every situation is different. And that goes along with just doing police work. And just, and I think they just want to be one way. And they know who's who in the neighborhoods, who got the mental health issues and who don't. And one dude who had the camera on Francis, he said, leave that boy alone. Leave that boy alone. That boy's
Mhm.
not well.
Yeah.
So, and the cop looked right at him and said, I know. So, you know what I mean? So they know who's who. It was a situation that got out of hand. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm against the police, because that's not what this is about. This is just about a law, right? Like, they messed up. There should be repercussion, period. And the tentacles attached to North Andover, because now you got Kelsey right next door, the DA. So are they gonna, how are they gonna do this? They don't want to admit to Kelsey. They ain't gonna want to admit to Francis. Then you got Karen Reed up the street in Norfolk, and the Commonwealth is the big umbrella. So what's gonna happen here? So, who knows?
Yeah, no, I have to go back to what JFK's saying, and maybe both Nan and Todd can remember this too, though. But I remember even when I was like growing up in North Attleboro, we would walk the streets late at night, and the cops would just come by and they'd be patrolling, and they would stop. But what are you guys doing? What's going on? Do you know the vibe that in the area? Have you seen anything? And let us do our thing and just say, hey, it's 2:00 in the morning. You guys need to go home. But they don't do that anymore. You don't see that. And I do agree with JFK that everything now in law enforcement is very one-sided. We come in, we throw the wrecking ball in, we clean up the situation, there's casualties, and then we go. It's not really mending and making those relationships with the people around you. If they probably would step in and talk to these people like normal people in the area, one, they would get the vibe as to what's going on. Two, they would get to know the community. And three, they would instill trust. I don't even see DARE programs anymore. I remember the DARE program when that was in my town. I know that some of them, people say that some of them still go on, but I don't see it around here anymore. I don't see a DARE car around. And those were the people, those were the officers that used to go into the communities and bridge that trust gap but we don't see that. And I do agree that we need retraining across all of our law enforcement, especially here in Massachusetts. But it's not only happening in Massachusetts, it's happening in small town USA everywhere as well. Because even though smaller towns are worse because they don't have the big oversight. So those fucking guys, they do whatever they want. You think it's like the Wild West in those towns. They'll just do whatever you want. Yeah, and then stuff gets covered up. I just want to get to this chat real quick, and then we'll get everybody's thoughts on what I just said. Becca Wallace is in here. I know that you spoke with Becca JFK not too long ago. Had an interview with her. She said, "Hey guys, thank you for sharing my cousin Francis' story. I teared up at one point listening. His story needs attention, and we need people at standouts. Please join us in justice for Francis." Becca, thank you so much for jumping in and checking out this live stream tonight. And hopefully, you know, the expert, and I call these three people experts on this case, can give a little bit more clarity as to what's going on. So
hey Brian,
yeah,
she also posted in your chat that she lived in North Attleboro. I'm never going to pronounce for years. So you have that in common. And also she said that one of the officers involved keeps posting on the Francis Facebook page anonymously, like leaving bad comments, nasty comments.
I was also on North Washington. If you remember, Charter gas station that turned into Gibbs, I lived behind that in those apartments. So you probably knew us. We used to walk around the town at like 2 o'clock in the morning, terrorizing everything. But we were kids and we had our fun. But I don't know. I mean, Todd, your thoughts on, you know, retraining and bridging gaps in the community. We talk about this all the time. It needs to happen. We can't just have one-sided law enforcement anymore. I think we've gotten the feeling out of it. You know, like we got to start implementing some feeling back into it, touching base with the local, you know, the locals and building a bridge between law enforcement and community.
Yeah, Brian, what's my humble opinion, what's hurt the single, if I had to point to anything, the single most disruptor of community policing has been technology. And I say technology because there's a computer terminal inside of every cruiser, and police sit, they find a place to squat, and they run plates instead of getting out of the car and having, to JFK's point earlier, getting out of the cruiser and having those conversations. Now, I don't want to make a blanket statement. There's some men and women in uniform that do the right thing every single day of the week. And to them, I salute them and I stand by them. But if you're a new guy, new girl coming on, and you're not having conversations with your community, you're policing incorrectly. You got it wrong. Get out of the car, start having communications and dialogue and conversations, and you'll start to know all the good people that are in that community that you're patrolling.
You know, I know you've said that before, Todd, and I totally agree, although I know nothing of the technology. But to add to that list, I have a sneaking suspicion that the existence of cell phones now also serves as a distraction for officers, especially in the overnight hours, where they're just, you know, warm and cozy in their cruisers and scrolling through social media. I'm not saying all of them are doing it, but I've seen some staring at cell phones as I'm passing by police vehicles. But in addition to that, I did want to ask you, is it common for 7 officers to respond to a call like Francis's?
In a city community, you've got certain sectors that are under patrol that make up your patrol for a shift. And if those, you may have 2-person cruisers, right? So automatically you get 2 cops at one call, you get a backup, now you get 4. So you can get to 7 pretty quickly. Okay. So if those other sectors are supporting that call for service, you can get to 7 really quick.
Okay.
You know, Nancy, and sorry, real quick, back to your point, you know, you were talking about technology and you know, police officers texting or scrolling. You know, there's just a case that was settled, and this is tragic. And I read about this up in Sherborne, Vermont. There was I believe it was a police sergeant that killed a man that was on his bike because he was watching YouTube videos while he was driving. And that officer got no time in that crash and killed this guy and got no time. And, and it goes back to, like I said, small town USA. This shit happens, and officers, they get off all the time with doing stuff like this. They're not held accountable. Listen, I don't like it in this case. I think 7 is too excessive. 7 people on top of someone that's going literally screaming like, I need help and I can't breathe. It bothers me. Someone needs to be held responsible.
And it's really disturbing that there's no body cam footage, and that footage, I
Well, they don't
believe,
wear body cams.
and all of the footage, I think all of it, I'm not certain, but all of the footage appears to have come from either surveillance footage and or cell phone footage of people at the scene who were witnessing this. Like, what an absolute tragedy that is. If I can help at all, Becca, I'm not from up there, but I do come visit frequently. If I can help attend or support standouts or other things that your family might need, JFK and James and Kev know how to get in touch with me.
Yeah, she's going to be at the show on October 24th, Malden, Mass, Meridian Street. Nan's in the house. LTL said he's going to pop out. Todd, you're welcome to come by. The show's going to start at 8 p.m. We're going to do a live podcast, and we're going to talk basically the same stuff we're talking now, and get a little deeper and talk about the law and our perspective. So Becca will be there. You'll get to meet her.
Well, that's great, Becca. Looking forward to it.
So Todd, what happens in these situations now? You have now a cause of death. You have police unions involved. You have lawyers involved. What is the protocol now in this investigation?
There's a number of things that could happen. You could see a situation where maybe a grand jury is assembled, and then as fact finders, they will examine if the conduct of the police officers was in alignment with what policy, procedure, and training is or not. And then you could see charges potentially come out of that. If they're exonerated, then obviously there's going to be some type of civil litigation, and the family members or whoever brings suit will be plaintiffs in probably a civil rights violation. In that
Now,
we have
if it goes to a civil, right? If it does slide into civil, they got qualified immunity. Then it goes into superior court, right? So let me ask Nan this, and you too, Todd, if you guys both can answer this. I'm going through something similar to that, this qualified immunity stuff. A police officer in Malden 5 years ago smashed into my car, messed up my shoulder. I got it all on film too. I never put the guy out there because I don't believe in putting this dude out here, putting the guy out there in his bad. He was Texan. I got him right there. I could put him out there. I could go triple viral, but I didn't want to do it to him because he was going through something bad, right? And I don't do that, right? But come to find out, a year ago he passes away.
Oh no.
52
Wow.
years old. So I'm kind of happy that I didn't put him out there, because most people, if they had the footage that I had, they would have ran to the computer and put this guy out there. And he's in his police cruiser and he hits me, right? And he smashes into me. I got the phone in his face. He's like, pull over. I said, pull over. I said, what do you mean pull over? I go, isn't it the law to stay where we're at? He goes like, what are you going to do? Hold up traffic? I said, bro, you got the police car. Put the blue lights on. What are you talking about? I looked right at him. I said, I ain't getting fucked for this time. I said, I'm going to get out the car. I climbed out the other side. So the first thing he did was he gets on his regular phone. And I'm like, why are you getting on your regular phone? Hit 911. I said, get on your walkie-talkies. That's unofficial business, buddy. I said, what are you doing? So he didn't know that, JFK was Nance Gallagher's twin. I was like, listen, that's unofficial business, bro. You need to get on that walkie-talkie. So he wouldn't do it. So there was a car in back of me. I was like, call 911. But ultimately, a couple of police officers showed up. It wasn't lights, camera, action. The Stadies didn't roll up. We was right by the Fellsway too, Todd. So, I mean, who knows who would have showed up in that area. And he probably would have got breathalyzed and probably arrested. But his boys showed up and took care of him. I left in the ambulance. It's been 5 years. I haven't got a dime. Not a nickel.
Well,
now they settled out of court for the insurance, because the insurance gave me money for my car. They took them to court. The insurance company hit me up and wanted me to go to their trial for the witness. And I'm like, what? Like, just randomly hit me up one day. Okay, trial's on Tuesday. We need you here in this superior court. I'm like, what are you talking about? But anyway, they ended up settling out like real fast with them. But it's been 5 years. They offered me $1,000 in 5 years.
Come on.
Oh my God.
Qualified immunity, and I'm talking about he mangled me, mashed me, and you see him on the camera, like he puts his phone down, and I slowed it down. You can see how long the text thread was, whoever he was talking to. But my point is, I'm not trying to make this about me, is that these qualified immunities crazy, right? It takes a long time.
It does. Are you, I'm going to ask you a stupid question, but you're saying it's been 5 years. You have a civil lawsuit pending against them?
Against the police department in a city in Massachusetts. Yeah. You
Wow.
can Google it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely want to look at that. So I'm going to Google it. And
I'm going to show you the video.
Qualified immunity is a bitch, if I can speak freely. But if it also, and I want to chat with you offline about your matter. I didn't know about that. But also for
Crazy.
Becca and or the family or extended family of Francis, I would give you this advice. If you haven't initiated a lawsuit yet, his rightful heirs haven't initiated a civil lawsuit yet, then you should at least be mindful of a few things. One, there's a Tort Claims Act in most states, and I dare say there is one in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where you must put all public entities like police departments, the state, the MSP, etc., the local police departments on notice that you intend to sue them. And you have to do that within a very limited time period. For example, I'm sitting here in New Jersey right now. I have 90 days to put those entities on notice that I'm going to sue them, even though I have in my state 3 years to file that lawsuit. So you have to make sure you file a notice of tort claim in a timely manner. I don't know if you're out of time to do that. Maybe you have one filed already. The second thing I would tell all of Francis's rightful heirs is make sure that you are talking with good attorneys who can give you advice as to whether to initiate a lawsuit in state court or in federal court, because there is something called qualified immunity that covers police departments, the state, the MSP, individual officers, and partially protects their conduct. There are exceptions to that qualified immunity, and there are circumstances when you can pierce the veil and get behind the immunity to actually seek and receive compensatory damages, and in some cases, punitive damages for the conduct. And in this case, if it can be shown that the conduct of the officers, the pig pile, the failure to follow standard protocols, the failure to acknowledge that he was complaining that he couldn't breathe, all of these missteps collectively and in totality may convince a jury, whether it's a state one or a federal one in the future, that you on behalf of the family or any of his rightful heirs believe that they misstepped, that they missed these necessary steps that should have been very elemental to them, and in the aggregate caused his death and therefore monetary losses. It will also send a message. Brian was saying a short while ago, we need more training. We need more training. And we were all saying that and still are with respect to the Karen Reed case. And you can name a bunch of other cases that have been the subject of content creators talking about cases in that area. Sending a message through a civil lawsuit, even if there is not a resultant criminal action, can really help stir the winds of change. It will never bring Francis back, but it may help someone in the future, and maybe that will be his legacy. I'm happy to help however I can, though.
If I can go back to Todd really quick. So you talked about the grand jury looking at training protocol. Now, is this something where they'll get like, and believe me, I'm very novice to this, so help me out. Will they go through like their policy and procedure for training, bring kind of that manual in, or would they bring in an expert like you, like someone like you that does this type of training and ask questions via the grand jury? How does that work?
Both. So you start, yeah, you start with policy procedure. You then segue to what were they trained, um, academy level, in service level after they got out of the academy, and then you basically bring in an expert to say, okay, yeah, this is standard curriculum that's taught in the Commonwealth. This is not specific to the police department. This is just kind of standardized training, among other things. In that's really just the tip of the iceberg as far as what the grand jury would hear during that process.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean the thing that just bothers me too, and we've seen a lot of reports on this lately too about uh, you know uh, police training and online training, and we saw that scandal. I don't know, it was probably like a year ago where I don't know if it was state police or it was town police that were, what was that, Todd? That were actually
Yeah,
taking the online modules and skipping through it.
yeah. There was a handful of officers that were identified and caught as almost like fast tracking the online training instead of sitting through each module and answering whatever learning assessment tools were in place. And that was at the Municipal Police Training Council. There were some municipal officers that were identified.
Yeah, and that's scary in itself because if it is updated training like something like this in these situations, I don't know what's in those modules. I don't know if this type of training, like arrest training, maybe I don't know how this is, Todd. Maybe you could explain. Do they do kind of like these yearly updates, or is that usually through these online portals?
Yeah, so firearms is mandated, and that's hands-on, right? So they've got to go to the range. Every police officer has to qualify annually. Some police departments will do it twice a year, but minimum once a year. Then there's other specialized courses that can be developed and the content put online, and so now you basically have a library of courses. And this year's annual in service will be these 3 or 4 different courses.
Pretty scary if they're skipping it and they should be taking it, and maybe that's why we unfortunately end up in situations like this, because the proper training is not being distributed, and then you have people, supervisors or people that should be holding these people accountable, not watching for that. They're skipping through, like you said, fast tracking. They're not getting the proper education, and then we have horribly have more situations like this. It needs to change. I mean, it needs to change.
And it
Let me
really
ask
doesn't.
Can I
Go
ask you
ahead.
something, Nan?
Yeah.
Nan, so in New Jersey, is it the same way with qualified immunity? They take it to Superior Court?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it goes to Superior Court in New Jersey. And I mean, at this point, 5 years is a ridiculous amount of time for you to be waiting for.
It's going to be
For
5 years October.
We got to
So it's 5
talk,
years.
JFK. Yeah,
Crazy.
maybe when I
Crazy.
see you on the 24th of October,
I'll
bring your
send
whole
you-
file.
I'll send you the video. I mean, this lawyer that I have, I mean, I can't believe it. But the point is, I found out about qualified immunity. See, one of my friends, Roger Sheets, same situation. He was 5 police officers came in his house and had him on his back. He ended up, it was a little bit different than the Francis Gigliotti case because he was acting up, but still, he ended up having an issue. He ended up passing away in the same situation. That qualified immunity, their case been going on since 2018.
Thank God. I will say I've had several cases that I have filed against public entities, including police departments, where we have been able to pierce the qualified immunity. So it really depends on the circumstances. But if this particular officer was using his own phone and or engaging in conduct that went beyond his official duties, there should be no qualified
And
immunity.
he's not even alive no more. The poor guy passed away.
Yeah, and also, you didn't
Young
have.
too. He was like 52 too.
That's sad. I mean,
Yeah.
and this, if I think about it, isn't this the type of issue that's going on with Helena Rafferty, the former chief of the Canton PD? She was involved in an accident and was using her phone in some fashion at the time that she struck an individual, And I believe if I heard it correctly, they're looking to pierce immunity as well. Like, and she's trying to say, well, I use my phone to do the business of the police department. That's what they always say. But sometimes it drills down to actually pulling cell phone records and finding out exactly what they were doing. I did want to make one point,
Right.
Brian, in terms of training. I have observed throughout, like, the Karen Reed case, I've also observed it in the police cases that I have handled over the years, that sometimes training it's a one and done. You know, officers get one training session on certain things and suddenly they're an expert in how to handle A, B, or C. I'd be interested to know from Todd, what in general is like the accepted practice for retraining and, you know, reinstilling some of these elemental SOPs in officers. For example, as lawyers, we have to undergo continuing education and we have requirements every 2 years that we have to adhere to. The same for doctors, the same for other specialties. Is there a certain type of retraining
The
that
same
goes
for
on?
the same for me and the same for me and LTL too. We do training every
You
every
do?
month for
You
that.
look like you do. You look
Yeah, for
like you
live
do.
streaming. For live streaming, right, LTL?
Yeah.
We're learning on the job.
Yeah.
I,
So,
you
so
look
Nan,
like that.
so Nan, there's each department will have its minimum amount of in-service training is what it's called, right? So
In service.
you're out of the academy, you're on the job. We would, in private sector, we'll call it professional development, right?
Yeah.
If there's a new statutory requirement that comes out, that would now make its way to be part of that in-service training. If there is new trends, you know, drug dealers are hiding drugs in a certain place in a vehicle, then that might be, you know, chosen to be an in-service training module. Then if you want to become an expert in something, then that's specialized training. You go to a certain school, it's usually, you know, X amount of hours, and then you're then certified once you've met all that criteria as an instructor or an advanced knowledge in a certain given subject matter.
Interesting. I feel like I would want to know if I were the attorney for the heirs of Francis, and I know Becca had put some information in there about his familial situation, but I would want to definitely look into the training history of all of these officers. In addition, I would be arguing to a jury in the wake of George Floyd, how to respond to situations like this needs to be much more carefully handled, you know? And what do we have here from Adam?
Adam Teeper Legal checking in. What's up, buddy? How are you, bro? He says Massachusetts doesn't require CLE for attorneys. It's optional, and it's 60 in-service training hours per municipality police in Mass.
That's insane. Oh my God. I'm definitely moving to Massachusetts.
Come on, move here. It's the best. It's the best place. Aside from we need our law enforcement cleaned up here, but it's a great place to live. We got all the four seasons, just like Jersey in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to get hit by
it's
a
right
car,
down the road.
JFK, right? Don't get hit by a
He's got
car.
the roaches
No.
out there. He's got
No,
the
I'm good,
roaches
I'm
out
good.
there protecting him.
I'm chilling. I'm out here chilling out. You know what I mean? Hanging out. We all right. Yeah, the roaches out here in ATL in Georgia are like this big.
You
Like,
talk
you know,
about
and that's
them all
the
the
thing.
time.
Like, you move down to if you move down to the south, it's beautiful, but you got to deal with the roaches. You know, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter
that's
what
big.
you do. There's just roaches everywhere.
You
You know
can
what I
put
mean?
a
Yeah,
saddle
they
on them
land
and
on
ride
you.
them.
They fly, and it's wild, man.
Oh yeah, I went to Texas. They have flying ones that are like this big.
Yep.
They're all over the trees down there.
Yeah,
It's
the
nuts.
one flew on me. I was doing a live and one landed on me one night. I was like, yo, dudes are like, what's wrong with you? And I seen them too. And then, of course, yeah, I mean, I had the coffee out. Probably was smelling the coffee, man. And they're scary too because they're so big.
They're big.
Man,
They're
I ain't
big.
never seen nothing like it.
Teeper
Oh,
Legal
man.
says JFK on traffic detail and on his phone instead. Love you, bro.
Yeah. What up, brother? I never knew this guy was a lawyer. I met
Oh,
him
he's great.
down on the standouts, and I never knew he was a lawyer. He's got that voice. I thought he
Yeah.
was more like a comedian the way he speaks, and then come to find out he's a lawyer. Wow. That's
And he
wild.
was also at
I
the
never knew
nacho night when you and I were there as well. North Shore Nacho Night.
Yeah. Very smart, very smart, very smart legal mind. All right, everybody. Well, we're coming up on about the hour and 20. That's usually what we do here in the LTL show. I don't know, any parting words, any parting comments on this situation? We'll go around. I'm going to go to Nan first, and then we'll follow by Todd and JFK to end up the show. I just want to say this. Thank you so much, JFK, for jumping up on the panel with us tonight. I know you had a
For
lot of
sure.
questions to ask. I wanted you to be part of this. And I love what you guys are doing on the JFK show. You, Kev, and James Jackson, you guys do a good job. And I love the fact that you guys have been out there in the community asking those tough questions, getting those interviews. Keep up the work there. And if there's anything that we can do here to help spread the word, you need to get something out, you're always welcome back here on the panel. And if James or Kev ever wants to jump up with us, let them know they're always welcome here on my show.
And you're welcome on my show too, bro. Come on,
Awesome,
jam out
awesome.
one day, you know?
Yeah, let's go to Nan first. Parting comments, Nan, comments, and then we'll go
All
to
I
Todd
want to
and then
do
JFK.
is jam out right now. No, but I definitely want to thank all of you for giving your input, and most notably for JFK, James Jackson, and Kev, who talk about this matter all the time. Brian,
Yeah.
for your bravery and boldness in bringing this to your audience as well. Like, I want to work tirelessly to try to help bring justice for Francis, but most notably, I have to give the MVP award to Todd, who really helped articulate to me in a very succinct way the steps that should have or should be followed under circumstances like this. So when we're looking at the types of scenes that are responded to and what the standard protocols would dictate. So Todd, thank you so much for breaking it down in a way that I understand, because I then take that information, think about it, apply it to the facts, and then if I'm talking to other audiences, while always giving you credit, I can then explain it in an understandable way myself. So thank you for talking about that tonight.
Todd, any parting comments or?
Yeah, Brian, you had mentioned, kind of alluding to where do we go from here? And I want to go back to, I use this term excited delirium. Again, 3 conditions have to be present. Remove one of those conditions. I guess what I'm just going to cut to the chase. Cocaine in Francis's system by itself wouldn't have killed him.
Okay.
I'm just gonna put it out there.
I
love Todd. I love that you said that, Todd, and I also love the fact that you're from Lynn, and that so now we're 2 Sin City soldiers. You know how that is, right?
That's
so
right.
ain't nobody can tell us nothing, bro.
JFK, please let me know how I can support you and your channel.
Yeah, you should come on. You should come on, man. We talk some old school. You know what I mean? We'll just we'll chop it up, man. About just about all the actions that's going on. Karen Reed, Francis, mental health, police stuff. You know what I mean?
Cool.
I love to pick your brain, man. I'll definitely get your information from LTL and get you up on.
Please do. Please do.
I'll get you his email address. JFK, I'll get you his email address. Do you guys have a show going on tonight?
Yeah, at 8:45, we going live.
All right, I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. Let me see. Hang on before we go out.
That's early. That's early for you.
That's an early
JFK.
show for you guys.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
I was just gonna warn Todd that he better take a nap in the afternoon if he wants to hit one of your shows.
Yeah, we go early. We go early. We go night. Yeah, we try to we do the after party at Turtle Boy because he goes on till 12 o'clock on Saturday. So I mean, put it this way: we was at 4 a.m. on Saturday into Sunday. We had 450 people at 4 a.m.
That's crazy.
I couldn't believe it, and that's why I was just like, "This is nuts." 4 a.m. We got 450 people watching. It was crazy.
So I dropped the link.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I dropped the link in the chat. Everybody, I want everybody. There's 282 people right now. The minute we go off air, you need to click that link, head over and support the JFK show. I'm sure Kev's going to be up there, James Jackson. What do you got going on tonight? You're going to talk Karen Reed, Francis, everything, right?
Yeah, basically everything we did, man. We just go around the block. You know what I mean? Let the chat, wherever the chat goes, it's their chat, right? Whatever they want to talk about.
I love it. Again, thank you so much to my panel members tonight, Nan, Todd, JFK. Nice to finally meet you, and thanks for coming up the panel and let us know
For
about
sure.
the vibe
Peace.
that's going on in Haverhill with this case. It's obviously tragic, and we'll just have to wait to see what's happened. We'll keep speaking about this. If you need anything from me, just let me know. If you ever want to jump up and talk about anything, you're welcome to come up. And also with James and Kevy Kev, if they ever want to jump up, just let me know.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
All right.
Thanks,
All right,
Brian.
everybody, click that link.
Todd, peace and love, Nan. You know what it is. Nothing but love
you,
to
bro.
Nan, my girl.
Yes.
Click
Love
that
you.
link, follow it over. Go watch the JFK show. I'm gonna pop in their chat for a little bit. I want to get some dance moves going here tonight. Can we,
Absolutely.
before we go, JFK, can I just get a goddamn from you before
Yeah.
we go?
God damn, LTL. God
I love
damn, you gotta calm the fuck down, bro. Shit. God damn, LTL.
Love it.
All right, with
About
that
to
being
take you up
said,
to
we're outta here.
39,000 feet. 39,000. You know what it is. Todd, peace and love,
Turbulence
my
in the
brother.
chat, right? Turbulence in the chat.
Turbulence in the chat. Peace, everybody.
Peace
All right,
out.
everybody, have a good night. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Good night.